User inputs. So these are just variables that you can make and access within the settings. Right now there's only style because there's no user inputs. But once I uncomment some of these, they're going to pop up as inputs. So let me show you. Now, basically for inputs, if you want to put an input in, use the input function right here. And then you want to have a default value and you want to have a type. So for this first one of the input types I can put in is a Boolean. And if you look here, this is how the Boolean shows up on the inputs tab on the front end. It's just either true or false. And by default it's false, so it shows up as an empty box. And my title is this. If you don't put a title, it'll just put in your actual identifier name. And the type, just remember that the name of the function is input, and then period, space, and you can select all the different types that are available. So that was input bool, and this confirmation parameter. So when I add this to the chart, let me just remove this. When I add this to the chart, it's going to pop up and ask me to confirm the inputs. So I can go, okay, I want that and that. For integers, it's similar. You put in the default value. It has to be an integer. You don't have to put in a title, but you can. Same thing, input integer. Minval is just the minimum value. Confirm, step. Step is pretty straightforward. It's just this right here. So now it's going to step by 10 because I have that. If that's not in there, it's optional. It'll just go up by 1. Input float, very similar to the input integer. And notice my title is empty here. If we look, it actually used the identifier name and it capitalized the first character right here, input float. So, but it actually shows up as an integer in here, which is kind of strange. Well, 4.0 just rounds it to 4, but I can do that, 4.1. And this might be something where you'd want to put a step in so it steps by some, 100th or 1000th, really trying to be precise with something. Input string, you can put in any string you want. And what I've done here is I've used this options parameter. This is useful, at least in this case, where I'm giving them this list of options to be able to select in a drop down on the input menu. And you don't have to have that with the input string. And now see, these options all pop up. They don't do anything, it's just a string, that's it. And then I'll show you guys how to convert that later so it's actually useful. If you're using an options list, you need to have the default value set to one of the options. If it's not, it's going to throw an error in the error console down here. See right here, syntax error, line 73. Input def val should be in options, but 247 is not in either one of these options. So PineScript will let you know if you're doing something wrong. And I don't even need options. And then I can actually use 247 and you can put in whatever string you want. So now it's popping up, input string. I'm not going to do that. It can be a number, whatever, because it's always converted to a string. And there's ways you can convert strings to numbers and vice versa. Input symbol, this one's useful and very interesting. Type input symbol. The default value is, I put BTC USD. You can put whatever you want. But basically what this one does is exactly the same thing as what this does up here. So if I want to type in a symbol and I want to have it part of my script, I can actually do that within my settings, my input settings. So then it just pops right up here and I can access every single symbol that's available to me in TradingView, which is very cool. You can work with that in a lot of different ways. Resolution, that's like the time frame here. You get this automatic drop down when you use input resolution of all the resolutions you can use. And if you're going to put in a default value, 1 is 1 minute, 5 is 5 minutes. When you want to go to 1 day, you do 1D. And when you want to go to 1 month, you do 1M. So now this should by default go to 1 day. See? Input session will put it in a certain format for you so you can use it when you're actually doing sessions. And input source is for your series, your open, high, low, close. You can have access to high, low too. HL3 and all the other ones. So this is just high plus low divided by 2, high plus low plus close divided by 3. You'll see this in a lot of standard indicators when you want to select the source for, say, an RSI. And these inputs work exactly the same way. So here, inputs, RSI, resolution, length, which is just an integer, and source.